Xiaomi has released a ton of great value phones this year, with most of them under the brand names Redmi and Poco. But before the year ends, Xiaomi announced the 11T, succeeding the successful Mi 10T of 2020. While you might think this is a typical yearly refresh, the changes are a bit more controversial than in previous years. But regardless, the Mi 11T is still the same value flagship phone that it's been since the Mi 9T. It is once again slightly expensive, but still reasonable for the base model, but the top model may be a little bit too steep, creeping into that 25,000 category. I will be releasing my 1 month later review of this phone very soon, but for now, let's check what's new and what's changed. To all the followers, welcome back and thanks for stopping by once again. But if you're new here, we make tech videos of all kinds, so feel free to drop a sub to get notified of new content. So first of all, the 11T is significantly thinner and lighter than the F3. Though it's not nearly as lightweight, it's close enough. You still get the same metal glass, but the front is using the latest Victus from Corning, and there's also an IP53 rating for the entire build, making this phone splash and dust resistant. The finish on the back is still using the same matte finish, but now in white, gray, and blue colors. One of the biggest changes is the screen, which is now using an AMOLED instead of LCD. So you're finally getting true blacks and more colorful RGB than last year's 10T. It's also brighter, almost twice as bright at 800 nits in regular use and up to 1000 nits in HDR. The refresh rate has been downclocked from 144Hz to 120, but to be honest, that's a negligible difference. Much like last year, there's no microSD slot nor a headphone jack for additional accessories. What's even more unfortunate is the lack of a 3.5mm dongle in the box. It seems like Xiaomi has stopped providing it starting with this phone. The controversial change, however, comes from within, which is the Dimensity 1200 from MediaTek, replacing last year's Snapdragon 865. In terms of benchmarks, the Dimensity 1200 is like 1 to 2% faster than the 865, which might not feel like an upgrade at all. The Qualcomm chip might be even faster in some games since it has better support from developers. As for the technologies the 1200 supports, its resume isn't as impressive as the 865, it even lacks support 8K video recording. I'm not saying 8K is an important feature, but it's just weird to see Xiaomi replacing an older chip with a less capable one while putting a higher price tag. But anyway, we will learn more about the chipset in a later video. The cameras of the 11T have been upgraded and downgraded, like the use of a 108MP Samsung sensor instead of a 64MP from Sony, and a switch to 8MP ultrawide from 13MP. The third sensor is, as you guessed it, a 5MP macro. You lose out on high-end features such as 8K recording, but you still get that typical high-end camera modes from Xiaomi, like dual video recording, movie effects, cloning, long exposure, and even audio zoom, where it enhances the loudness of the subject you're zooming into. The selfie camera on paper has been downgraded from 20 to 16MP, but it still records up to 1080p at 30 frames. As for the rest of the device, the stereo speakers are still here as well as the large 5000mAh battery. The 11T, however, now charges at up to 67 watts, basically twice as fast as the 10T, which means the 11T goes from empty to full in as quick as 36 minutes. But to give you a glimpse, my testing required 40 minutes. The 11T definitely looks good on paper, but it's that MediaTek chip that I feel like would be a deal breaker to most people, especially those huge Xiaomi followers. To be fair with MediaTek, the company has improved quite significantly ever since the arrival of the Dimensity series. I've also tested quite a few devices with Dimensity chips, and although they are not as powerful as their Snapdragon counterparts, I never felt like the performance was lacking. And when it comes to temperature, most of these devices perform well under the red mark, with some even beating the competition. Personally, I'm not worried about the performance side of the Dimensity. I'm more interested to see how well the image signal processor performs and handles the processing of photos and videos. It's really where MediaTek has to focus from now on, as the majority of smartphone users in the world still prefer better cameras than better performance. They've done a good job already when it comes to 5G support, performance, temperature, and even efficiency. I just want them to have a good camera processing support so that they can fully take advantage of the great optics from Samsung and Sony and finally compete against the big players. Because at the end of the day, competition is good for the consumers and manufacturers. That's it. Drop a sub or like if you feel supporting the channel, and until the next one, stay safe.